Hi, my name is Dr. Brian Powell, and I'm the coordinator for Computer Science 101. We're really excited to have you in class this semester. As you get started with CS 101, please watch this video. It's going to go over a lot of important details about how the course is set up and information that you need to know to be successful. Let's start off by talking a bit about what CS 101 is about. Our goal in CS 101 is to teach you how to work with data, how to manage it and organize it, and how to be able to go and dive into that data to go and understand what it really means. We're going to work with you to develop critical thinking skills that will help you be able to parse information to be able to make conclusions about what that data means now and what it might mean for the future. As part of this process, we're going to be working with the Microsoft 365 suite, what used to be called Microsoft Office, to solve a variety of different types of problems based on real-world scenarios. We're looking at things with scientific type backgrounds and some with more business-oriented backgrounds, but along the way, we'll be working with analyzing data of different types of problems from the real world. Throughout the course, you're going to learn skills that'll be helpful to you as you proceed in your time at WVU, and also once you get out in the workforce after you graduate. This semester, all the information that you're going to need for CS 101 is available in our course in eCampus. Sometimes this might involve clicking on links in eCampus that will take you to other systems, like over to MyLab IT to complete your MyLab lessons or participation projects, or to take you to pages on our standalone website at cs101.wvu.edu to view information there. But you should look at eCampus as your hub for everything that you're going to need for CS 101 this semester. If there's information that you need to know, that will generally go as an announcement on eCampus, but it's also important that you do check your Mix email. You'll get copies of announcements there, but also sometimes there might be some communications from your instructor that aren't going to be posted as announcements in eCampus. If you have questions for your instructor, email is also the best way to go through and contact your instructor with those questions. We do ask that when you go and email us, you send from your Mix email address and that you include your full name and which course section you're in, so like CS 101 section 701, so that when we see your email, we know exactly who you are and which course you're in. Some of our instructors deal with multiple courses, so if you don't include that course information, it can be a little bit confusing for us to have to go and try to track you down. If you can go and include that information about which course you're in, that's going to allow us to respond to you faster. Please do make sure that you clearly communicate in your emails. Basic things like writing in complete sentences and using paragraphs can help us read your message faster and get a better understanding of what it is you're actually asking. Be specific if you've got a question that you want us to take a look at. This is an asynchronous online section of CS 101, which means that it doesn't have a regularly scheduled meeting time. That doesn't mean that CS 101 is self-paced. There are a variety of due dates that you're going to have to meet throughout the semester. You might find it helpful to schedule blocks of time so that you can make sure that you get all of your work done on time. Everything that you're going to need to complete this semester will be available through eCampus and can be done remotely, wherever, and as long as you get it on time, whenever you like. If you need help, your section instructor is going to be the best person to contact. Email is generally a good way to get a hold of them. But if you're taking the course during the fall or spring semesters, you can also get help from the CS 101 Learning Center. If you're in Morgantown, we offer drop-in in-person assistance in Armstrong Hall on the downtown campus. You can also schedule an appointment to meet with a proctor via Zoom. With those basics out of the way, let's talk about the materials that you're going to need this semester. We're using products from the publisher Pearson, based on their Exploring Microsoft 365 series of textbooks and software. You're going to have access to e-text versions of their books for the 4 Microsoft 365 or Office applications that we cover: Excel, Word, Access, and PowerPoint. These are very good reference books, but we don't require you to do readings from them. If you do want to read from the textbook, for each lecture, we do list pages from the textbook that tie in with the content for that lecture. The biggest thing that the textbook does is it helps tie into the software that we're going to be using, something that's called MyLab IT. MyLab IT is a simulation that runs in your browser and is designed to help you learn how to use the core features of Microsoft 365 or Office. You can use it with any major browser, including Chrome, Firefox, and Edge. It's available through links that are posted in eCampus. You will need to purchase your own license from MyLab IT. The licenses are valid for 1 year. So if by chance you happen to be retaking CS 101 and you last took it in less than a year, you should be able to reuse your existing license. If you need to get started with MyLab IT for assignments, but you're waiting on financial aid or an access code for that you'll be receiving from, say, athletics or from First Day Complete, you can get started using the free 14-day temporary access option. And then once you are able to go and purchase it or receive the access code, then you can go ahead and upgrade your account so that you have that full year term. There are a couple different ways that you can purchase access to MyLab IT. One way is by being enrolled in Barnes & Noble's First Day Complete program, which includes the required materials for all the courses that you're taking. The MyLab IT license, which includes the eText option, is one of those required materials that you would get through First Day Complete. One thing to be aware of with First Day Complete is that it's only available during the fall and spring semesters. So if you're taking CS 101 during the summer, this isn't going to work for you. But if you're doing First Day Complete and it's the fall or spring, you'll receive an access code that you can use when you go to register for MyLab IT. The other way is to just go and purchase access specifically for MyLab IT. The simplest way to do this is as part of the registration process for the software. When you go to register for MyLab IT, you can go and say that you want to buy access right then and there using a credit or debit card. We've arranged for special discount pricing from Pearson that should help save you some money on this option. The other way is to get an access card from the campus bookstore and then use the access code that's inside of that to go ahead and register. If you go and get a standalone license, you do need to make sure that you're either buying it directly from Pearson as part of the registration process or from one of the WVU campus bookstores. Because of the discount pricing that we've arranged with Pearson, ISBNs that you would buy off of, say, Amazon are not going to work correctly. So make sure that you do buy the right version so that you're able to actually use our MyLab IT courses. There's a little bit of information that we cover on some of the assignments that's not in the textbook or in MyLab IT. For this, we've written our own supplemental content for CS 101. We have it available as a PDF for free on eCampus if you want to go and use that as a reference. Since CS 101 is built around teaching you how to use the applications from Microsoft 365, formerly Office, you're going to need Microsoft 365 for the course. Things work out easiest if you have a Windows computer, because Macs don't support all of the tools that we're actually going to be covering in the course. We do have some options for Mac users that we'll get to here momentarily. But kind of the ideal situation would be if you have a Windows computer, you either want to have Microsoft 365 installed, and you can actually get that for free from WVU using the link on the screen here. Or if you have Office 2019 or newer, so 2019, 2021, 2024, those will also work for what we're going to cover in class. You will need to have versions of Microsoft 365 or Office that include Access, Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. There are some versions of Office out there that don't include Access. And that's not going to work if you're trying to use one of those versions because a number of our assignments are built around Access. If you have a Mac, there's some work that you can do using Microsoft 365 for Mac, but the big problem with Macs is that there is no version of Access that will run on a Mac. So for some of the assignments, you're going to have to use a solution that's called Azure Virtual Desktop that we'll talk about here. You can't use Google Docs or OpenOffice for any of the assignments whatsoever. You've got to use a real version of Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Office in order to complete your work. If you're using a Mac, there are a couple things that you'll need to be aware of as you complete your assignments. When we're looking at the MyLab lessons, your best bet is going to be to use Chrome, Edge, or Firefox for your browser. A lot of Mac users want to use Safari because Safari comes bundled with Mac OS, but that's actually not going to be your best choice here. There are some security things that Safari does that are sort of non-standard and that don't play well with MyLab IT. If you use Chrome, Edge, or Firefox, everything should work without having to make any special changes. You can use Safari, but there are some special settings that you'll need to go and configure in order to get things to work. Pearson has some support documentation on this, but it's a lot easier if you just work with Chrome or Firefox or Edge. The other thing is when we get to look at the assignments that you'll need to do using Microsoft 365 itself. So this would be our exams, homeworks, the MyLab Extra Credit projects, and the participation projects. Some of the assignments, specifically the ones that are going to focus on Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, you can generally get away with using the version of Microsoft 365 that will run directly on your Mac. There are a couple assignments, though, from Excel and anything that's going to involve Access that requires a Windows version of Microsoft 365. Those assignments at the top of the instructions will specifically tell you that you need to have the Windows version of Microsoft 365 to complete them. For those of you who have Macs, your best option is going to be to work with what's known as Azure Virtual Desktop. This is a service that CS101 pays for that lets you to connect to a Windows computer that's running the Windows version of Microsoft 365 through your browser. The only caveat is that you need to have a constant internet connection while you use it. So if you're in an area where internet's spotty, you might want to go someplace where it's going to be a little bit more reliable. But other than that, this is a very good way to go and complete all of your CS101 assignments that require you to use Microsoft 365. Even if you're not on a Mac, even if you're on a Windows computer, maybe a friend's Windows computer, you can also go and use this option to go and complete your work. We have instructions on the CS101 website at cs101.wvu.edu/avd. And they're also going to be linked from within the campus on how to go and work with Azure Virtual Desktop. No matter where you do your work, it's going to be really important that you make sure your files are secure so that nobody else can access them. Unfortunately, we see situations where people's roommates or sometimes even their boyfriends or girlfriends will go and take their files and then try to pass them off as their own. If somebody else takes your file and turns it in, you're going to get penalized for that. So it's important that you go and make sure that others can't get to your files. The biggest thing that we can tell you is don't let anybody else use your computer. If somebody else can get to your computer, they're going to be able to get to your files and be able to access your work. On the flip side, don't use somebody else's computer if you don't have to. And if you do need to use somebody else's computer, don't use Microsoft 365 directly on it. Go and connect to Azure Virtual Desktop and do all your work in Azure Virtual Desktop. Any work that you do through Azure Virtual Desktop, all those files are going to live in the cloud on that server that you're connected to. They're not going to be available locally for somebody to get to. So if you go and do work with Azure Virtual Desktop, your files will be secure from somebody else being able to take them. Shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about how we do our grading in CS101 and the different types of assignments that you can expect to see. CS101 is graded on a 1,000-point basis. And there are several different types of assignments that are going to feed into that 1,000 points. We're going to go through each of these in a little bit more detail, but basically you can expect to see 18% of your grade come from doing MyLab lessons, 16% coming from participation projects, 30% coming from homeworks, 35% coming from exams, and 1% coming from a student introduction at the beginning of the semester. The only extra credit that we're going to offer this semester is in the form of 4 MyLab extra credit projects. These are all going to be due on the very last day of class, right before finals. So if you get to the end of the semester and realize that you need to improve your grade, this is going to be one way that you can do that. Although they're actually going to be open all semester if you want to work on these projects as time allows so that you have those extra credit points in the bank. As I mentioned, we grade on a 1,000-point basis. Letter grades are determined strictly off of how many points you've earned. We don't curve grades. It's just how many points you earn. So if you want an A, you'll need to earn at least 900 points, 800 for a B, 700 for a C, 600 for a D, and anything less than 600 points is going to be an F. We round off to the nearest full point, but beyond that, you need to get that number of points if you want to get that grade letter. In CS 101, we have our assignments scaffolded so that the earlier assignments that you're going to complete will help you get prepared to be able to do the later assignments. The very first level in the scaffolding are what we call our MyLab lessons. These are things that you're going to do using the MyLab IT software that I mentioned earlier that simulates Microsoft 365 or Office in your browser. These MyLab lessons are going to serve as an initial introduction to a lot of the different features that we're going to be covering in the course. MyLab IT is going to simulate the different Office applications like Excel and Access and ask you to complete particular tasks. If you know how to do those tasks, you can just do them. But if you don't, there's learning aids built in directly to MyLab IT right with each question where you can either watch a video showing how to complete that task or you can get step-by-step guided help on how to go and perform that task. This semester, there's going to be 14 MyLab lessons. Since we're using MyLab IT as the way to introduce you to a lot of these topics initially, stuff that you're going to see on the MyLab lessons will often be things that we haven't talked about with any of our other lecture material or any of other assignments yet. That's okay. Use the learning aids if you need help figuring out what to do. Each of the 14 MyLab lessons is going to have 15 questions in it. You will need to get registered for MyLab IT in order to be able to use the software. And as I mentioned, you will have to purchase an access code for that. The registration process is really streamlined now, and it's done in eCampus to get started. You're going to go under the Start Here section in eCampus, and then there'll be a link there to go and get registered with MyLab IT. If you're returning from a previous semester, you might have been familiar with where you had to go to myitlab.com and get signed up there. You don't have to do that anymore. The process for getting registered and then actually accessing the individual assignments is all going to happen through eCampus. Between the 14 MyLab lessons that are assigned this semester, there are 210 questions available for you to complete. We're actually going to be dropping the 2 lowest scoring lessons or 30 questions from your grade. Each question is worth 1 point, so altogether, the MyLab lessons will be worth 180 points or 18% of your final grade. We've chosen to go through and drop those 2 lowest scoring lessons in case you go and run into any problems with being able to do some of the questions. Occasionally, students will run into situations where there's a question that they just can't figure out how to do, even with the learning aids. Our recommendation is that you don't need to sit there and hammer away at a question forever to try to get it right. If you can't figure out how to get a question inside of 5 or 10 minutes after you've looked at the learning aids, just move on. Sometimes some questions are a little picky. If you get down the wrong path, sometimes it can be hard to recover. That's okay. We're going through and dropping those 2 lowest scoring lessons to help accommodate for that. And the other thing too is each of these questions is only worth 1 point out of 1,000 from your final score for the semester. So if you miss a question, the impact on your final grade is going to be really small. It is important, though, that you go and do your MyLab lessons because that's almost 2 letter grades worth of your final score. If you happen to miss a lesson, we will let you complete it for half credit. Late up through the last day of class for the semester, so right before finals begin. As I mentioned, MyLab IT has learning aids that will help you find out what to do if you need help with a question. You can see on the screen here that there's a learning aids menu, and on there's the watch option that will let you see a video of somebody doing the task. The practice is the one that I mentioned that will guide you step by step on how to complete that question. It will tell you to go to this location, move your mouse here, click here, type this in, and so on. And then there's also a read option that will go and pull up an appropriate section from the e-text from the textbook for the class. If you're having problems with the question, take advantage of the learning aids. One word of warning though, some students will try to have multiple browser windows open. They'll have two different sessions of the same MyLab lesson, one where they're just doing it and another one where they can go and launch the learning aids. You don't want to do that. Only open up your lesson once, and then within there, you can launch the learning aids if you need it. If you have two separate windows open that have the same lesson, MyLab is not going to record your work properly, and you'll not get credit for that assignment. So if you're going to use the learning aids, just go ahead and launch them as you're working from the same window that you're working from. Don't try to put them in another window. After the MyLab lessons, the next step in our assignment scaffold are the participation projects. These are hands-on projects that are going to be done in the actual Microsoft 365 applications, so in Excel or Access or Word or PowerPoint, where you'll be going through and working with real-world data using the features that you've learned from the MyLab lessons. There will be at least 23 projects assigned during the semester. You'll get full credit for completing 20 of them. The pacing for this is that if you're in a fall or spring section, you're normally going to see 2 projects a week. If you are in a summer section, normally there's going to be 4 or 5 projects a week. You do need to complete the participation projects on time. We don't offer makeups and we don't accept late work. It's important that you stay on pace with these, because if you fall behind, then you're going to have trouble being able to do the remaining assignments with the homeworks and the exams. Completing the participation projects will help you get ready to do the homeworks. These are designed to go and have you work a little bit more on your own with these real-world data sets to go and analyze them and try to draw some conclusions. There are 5 homeworks this semester, 2 that are just on Excel, 2 just on Access, and the final one covers all 4 Microsoft 365 or Office applications. You'll start off with data and Access, export some queries to Excel, and then you'll go and create a Word report and a PowerPoint presentation to share your findings. 15% of the grade for each of the homeworks comes from answering what we call analysis questions. These are going to be questions where we'll be asking you to look at the data that you've worked with as part of that project, to try to understand what it means and maybe be able to explain some reasoning for why that might be the case, or try to give us some ideas about how we might be able to use that to help make decisions for the future. For homeworks, there's a late penalty of 20% of your grade for each day that it's late. Compared to the MyLab lessons and the participation projects, where you'll be able to find videos that identically match the exact assignment you're working on, homeworks are a little bit less guided, but we do have resources to help you still if you need it. For each homework, there's what we call a homework help project and a accompanying video that's available. These are going to be doing the same types of tasks in the same order as your assigned homework, but with a different data set. So you can use those as a reference if you're trying to work on your project, but they're not the exact homework that you're assigned, so they're not actually worth any credit if you do turn them in. The homeworks that we have in class tend to build on each other, and they're also going to help set you up for the exam. It's important that you not skip homeworks. Students who fail CS 101 are almost always missing multiple homeworks. If you do the homeworks, and especially if you need help if you go and try to get it, you're very likely to score an A or B in the class. The last piece in our sequence of assignments are the exams. There's going to be 2 of them this semester. The first one is just on Excel, and the second one will include Access and PowerPoint. We don't have a comprehensive exam, and Word is not covered on the exam either. The exams are going to cover the exact same types of material that you're going to see on the homeworks. There's nothing that's going to be on the exam that you will not have seen on a homework. So if you do well on the homeworks, you shouldn't have problems when it comes test time. Just like the homework help videos, we have similar exam review projects and videos that we post that are going to be similar to what you will expect to see on the exam, but not quite the same. So if you're looking to practice for the exam review projects are going to be a good resource to go and do that. The final required assignment this semester is the student introduction. This is actually something that you're going to do during the first week of class. And it's a way for us to, as instructors, to get to know more about you, what your background is, and what your goals are for the semester. You're going to do this in eCampus as a discussion there, and it is worth 10 points of your final grade. If you're looking to improve your grade this semester, the one option for extra credit is going to be our MyLab extra credit projects. There's actually 4 of these projects, each worth 15 points for a total of up to 60 points of extra credit. These projects are going to be completed using the individual Microsoft 365 applications, just like the participation projects and homeworks. You'll be able to get to them from eCampus, and they're going to be auto-graded by MyLab IT. So you'll actually submit using the interface for MyLab IT that's going to be linked from eCampus. For each project, you can try it as many times as you like. One benefit of this, aside from being able to earn some extra credit points, is that if you score at least 90% on a project, you'll earn a Credly badge from Pearson that you'll be able to put on your LinkedIn profile if you have one. You can put on a resume, or you can share it on social media to help prove that you have some skills with the Microsoft 365 apps, aside from having CS 101 on your resume. If you're interested in getting the Microsoft Office Specialist certifications, earning those badges will also get you discount vouchers that you can use for that. Academic integrity is something that's very important to us in CS 101. It's your responsibility as a student to know and follow our policy. Things are clearly documented in the syllabus, so please make sure that you spend the time to read it. Simply put, though, you are required to do all your work this semester on your own, working individually. Our assignments are not group projects. You're not allowed to work with others, to share with files with others, or if you're repeating the course, to reuse a file from a previous semester. We've seen plenty of cheating cases over the years, and we've gotten very good at being able to detect them. We also have some software tools that we've developed for CS 101 that further help us identify cases where students have cheated. If you cheat, you can expect to be caught, and we're very strict in enforcing penalties for those who are caught. At a minimum, you're going to get a 0 on the assignment, and you'll lose eligibility for all extra credit, so any points from the MyLab extra credit projects will go away. If we find a cheating case, we will also report you to WVU's Office of Academic Integrity, which will, at a minimum, assign additional educational sanctions that you'll have to complete. Depending on the situation and the severity, you might find that you're kicked out of the honors college if you're an honors student, and if you're a repeat violator, they'll oftentimes suspend you. In extreme cases, they may actually expel you from the university. So there are very real consequences for academic integrity violations. Just don't do it. Avoiding potential academic integrity violations is really pretty straightforward. Do your own work and don't collaborate with others. As I said, our assignments are not group projects. You should never give your files to anybody else for any reason whatsoever. You should also make sure that you don't leave your files on a shared computer or somewhere where somebody else might find them and submit them. Because if somebody else turns in your work, you're going to be penalized in that situation as well. As part of that, we recommend that you don't let other people use your computer, and don't do your work on a friend's computer just because, for many people, there is a temptation that if there's a file there that they can access, they'll take it and try to turn it in as their own work. If you don't have a computer that you can use, or if you have friends who don't have a computer that they can use, go to the library, go to the CS101 Learning Center, or use Azure Virtual Desktop. These all are password protected systems where your files won't be accessible to others. Don't share computers with other people when you're completing your assignments, just to avoid problems. Anything that you turn in is expected to be your own personal work. You're not allowed to use ChatGPT, Google Bard, or any other sort of generative AI tool in completing CS101 assignments. It's got to be your own work, your own writing in any assignment that you turn in. Just to reemphasize, don't ever give a file to somebody else or take a file from anyone else. I know it sounds a bit like a broken record, but this is a problem that continually comes up where students, for what they might perceive to be innocent reasons, will go and share a file and then somebody else takes it and turns it in. Just don't do it. At the beginning of every homework and exam, the instructions are going to tell you to create a new file. You need to make sure that you yourself are going and creating that brand new file. Don't reuse even a blank file, because that will count as an academic integrity violation. Don't share files with friends, even if the only thing in that file is just the starter data that you've imported into it. Everybody has to do everything from the very first step on their own. If you're repeating the course, you'll also want to make sure that you don't reuse files from a previous semester. You need to do things new for the new semester. To recap, if you cheat, you can expect that you'll be caught. We're very good at detecting academic integrity violations. If for some reason you don't have your assignment done, it's better to just not turn in anything than to cheat, because if we catch you, you're going to end up a lot worse off than if you just hadn't submitted the project at all. If you're having trouble, by all means, please get help from CS101. The CS101 Learning Center is available for you in the fall and spring semesters, in person if you're in Morgantown, or via Zoom wherever you're located. You can also email or meet with your section instructor. If you need assistance, please take advantage of it. Just do it in a way that's permitted. We keep a database of all the assignments that have been turned into CS101 going back for many years. So even if you reuse a file, that's your own file, we're going to find it. And reusing your own work or work from anybody else does count as an academic integrity violation. The other thing, aside from any potential penalties that you might face, is that by cheating, you're really just cutting yourself short. All of our assignments are designed to build on a previous assignment. Everything that you're going to see on an exam has previously shown up on a homework. So if you don't get that material for the homework, you're going to have trouble when you see it later on the exam. You want to make sure that you understand how to complete the projects so that you're ready when it comes time to take the test. All of us who work with CS101 want you to be successful this semester. We want to see you do your best so that you can get the skills to prepare you for the rest of your college career and your future job. Most students who take CS101 get an A or a B. This is a completely reasonable expectation as long as you're willing to go and put in the time and effort to complete the assignments and to get help when you need it. We've put together a lot of resources and different ways for you to be able to get help so that you can do well in the course. One great way to get help with your assignments, whether you're working on homeworks, participation projects, or MyLab lessons, is by taking advantage of the CS101 Learning Center. If you're in Morgantown, we have drop-in in-person hours available where you can just show up and get help. If you're at WVU Tech, remote, or just don't feel like coming to campus, we also have hours that are available by appointment through Zoom. To see hours and instructions for scheduling Zoom times, take a look at eCampus under the Help and Resources section. During the summertime, we don't offer the CS101 Learning Center, but if you need help, your instructor is available. Contact them to schedule office hours to meet over Zoom. Another option for getting help is to take advantage of the dozens of videos that we've posted. For participation projects, most instructors make available videos that will show you step by step how to complete your assigned project. These videos will be posted along with your participation project. We have homework help projects that are similar to the actual homework assignment that you'll be doing, but not identical. They're going to do the same tasks in the same order, just with a slightly different data set. We also have exam review projects and accompanying videos for those to help you get ready for the tests. The homework help projects and exam review projects have instructions that you can follow through and work on as you watch a video that will go step by step through completing that project. These projects are going to show you everything that you'll need to know for the homeworks and for the exams. Now, with the exam review projects, there's some things that you might see in the review project that are not actually going to be on the exam itself, but everything that you'll see on the exam will have been covered in a project. So this is a great way to practice if you're trying to get ready for the test. Finally, if you have questions or need assistance, your section instructor is always there to help. Don't feel bad about asking for assistance. That's the reason that we have instructors for CS 101. Part of their job is to be available to assist you if you need help. Generally speaking, the best way to get in touch with your instructor is going to be via email. When you email your instructor, please be sure to give your full name and that you're in CS 101 and which section you're in. That way we know exactly where to go if we need to look up information about your grades or what have you to be able to respond to you. Some instructors teach multiple courses, so if you can kind of steer us in the right direction in that email, we'll be able to get back to you faster. When you're asking questions or trying to look for help maybe with an error message or something that's going wrong, please try to be as specific as you can about the issue that you're asking about when you email your instructor. If you're working on homework 2 and you have a question with step 5, say that. If something's not working as expected, say this is what I've tried to do, this is what's happening, or maybe this is the exact error message that I've received. Being as specific as you can in the email is going to let us narrow down the problem faster and be able to respond to you more quickly, so we can give you the best possible answer. If you're working on an assignment, you can always attach your file to the email when you go and send it to your instructor. That'll allow your instructor to look at your work to identify what might actually be going wrong. A lot of times it's easier to spot a problem if we have the actual file in front of us rather than just trying to read through your descriptions of things or maybe screenshots that you've taken. The actual file is going to let us more quickly figure out what's wrong and what you need to do to fix it. While email is generally going to be the best way to contact your instructor, sometimes a little bit more live communication can be helpful. Your instructor oftentimes will be able to meet via Zoom if you prefer, or perhaps even in person. Again, if you want to talk with your instructor, just reach out via email and see how they can help you. We know that some students need special accommodations in order to be able to participate in the class or to be able to do their best work. We're happy to implement any accommodations that have been authorized by the Office of Student Accommodations. We are not allowed to provide students with any sort of accommodation for a disability-related issue if it has not been authorized by that office. If you have an accommodation and wish to use it, we need to be notified at least a week in advance. So for example, if you've been given an extended time accommodation on exams, we need to get documentation from student accommodations that you've been authorized for it, and we need for you to tell us that you want to use that extended time accommodation at least a week prior to the exam. If you have any questions about accommodations that might be appropriate for you, please check with the staff in the Office of Student Accommodations. They're happy to help you with finding which ones are appropriate for your situation. We're almost done now. Let's take a look at what we should do to have a strong start to the new semester. As I mentioned earlier, one of your assignments this semester is to tell us about yourself. If you go into the discussion section in eCampus, you'll see a student introduction discussion assignment. In there, there'll be a prompt for you to post to tell us what your major is, what year you're at WVU, where you're from, and what your goals are for learning in CS 101 this semester. As long as you go and complete the post on time, you'll receive 10 points towards your final grade. You'll also want to get started with MyLab IT. You're going to need to register for it first. If you go under the Start Here section in eCampus, there'll be a Get Registered for MyLab IT link that you can click on to go through this process. If you don't have an access code yet, you can buy one as part of this registration process. If you're waiting on financial aid or to receive an access code, there's also a 14-day temporary access option that you can use to get started for free. If you have any questions with getting registered, you can email your section instructor or visit the CS101 Learning Center for help in getting signed up. Once you get registered for MyLab IT, you'll want to start working on the MyLab lessons. There are a couple that are going to be due during the first week and a half of the semester, so it's important to get started early with these lessons so that you don't fall behind. At this point, you should have a good idea of what you can expect this semester in CS101 and what you need to do to be successful as a student. Some key takeaways from this video are that CS101 is designed to teach you how you can work with data, to manage it and analyze it, primarily by using Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Access. Everything that you'll need for CS101 is done either directly in eCampus or is linked from eCampus. There's a lot of resources in eCampus if you need help, but you can also email your section instructor, potentially meet with them via Zoom or in person, or go to the CS101 Learning Center if you need assistance. There's plenty of ways to get help. Please ask for it if you need it, because we want to see you do well. We are very serious about cheating in academic integrity. It's not worth trying to cheat. You're only going to end up worse off. Finally, one word of advice. Stay on top of your work. There's a lot of stuff to do this semester, and it's really easy to fall behind if you start missing due dates. Thanks for watching. I hope that this video has helped fill you in on what you need to know to be successful in CS101 this semester. If you have any questions, please follow up with your section instructor. From all of us in CS101, we hope that you have a great semester.